Hello everyone, welcome back to the TJOmega channel for day 1123 of our daily content grind. Now, you'll excuse me if I'm going for the wet look in some videos this week because, well, there's been a lot to do outside and it's very wet outside at the moment, as you would imagine in Florida this week. But the grind must keep grinding, so we must keep talking, and this week we are talking about toys from the year 2014. We're getting into another weird year here. Masterpiece is picking up steam and had a lot more releases. We're getting more thrilling 30s stuff. We are getting Age of Extinction, which is a hit and miss toy line I think a lot of people would agree on. Oh, and we're doing some things. Generations finally found its leader class characters. We got some stuff to talk about. So without any further ado, here are the top 10 Transformers of the year 2014 in this humble reviewer's opinion. And we start with something that might be a little bit divisive. So when it came to this list, the hardest one to pick is number 10, because there are a lot of standout figures that are fun on their own, but maybe they don't stand out much. Maybe they're not like glowing as far as like quality goes. So I went with my gut and which one did I like playing with the most, and I ended up on Thrilling 30 Brainstorm. I loved seeing the Headmaster gimmick come back. It was so nice and nostalgic for me, even though I never owned the original toy. But it was fun to actually see the Headmaster feature back. Like, even, like, it worked. You know, you plugged it in, and his stats got revealed in his chest. Great. The fact that it's based on the IDW design, even better for me, the IDW fan. What always sets Headmasters apart, despite how simple the transformation on this toy is, which is why it almost didn't make the cut, is the playability the Headmaster system brings, giving you a pilot figure for your toy. That bumps it up just a little bit for me, and it's just enough to outpace some of the other ones I was considering. I'm gonna leave them nameless so I don't start debates in the comments section. But for me, I do really like this toy. Simple as it is, but there's play factor there that I really like. Number 9 is a personal favorite of mine, and this one is again probably going to get some disagreements because there is a Voyager toy of this character released a couple years later that people swear by and people prefer over this. The truth, though, my truth, is that the deluxe one is still the more fun toy. I need to talk about Scorn. Scorn, to me, pulls off the coolest look as, you know, the knight aesthetic that they went for with Age of Extinction. For starters, I like the single fin Spinosaur better than the tri-fin that came out later as the Voyager. I think it looks better in beast mode. Then we get to the robot mode. That one fin means two spines coming off his back. It kind of resembles like Japanese warrior flags. It kind of mixes in like a little bit of Japanese aesthetic with like the European knight look, which is exemplified not only by, you know, a cool looking sword and nice proportions and colors. Of course, yeah, the black and red one is going to appeal to me. But it also is just the fact that they use the tail as an arm. But here, where it's a knight, passing it off as his lance is a perfect way of incorporating it. For me, it's just the more fun figure. I think it looks better. I think it plays better. Like, I just really, really like Deluxe Scorn. And I know someone's going to give me heck in the comments section, because I'll be honest, the Voyager's probably not going to make its year's list. But hey, it's my list, and I like the Deluxe better. Here's an interesting one for this list because bang for your buck works two ways. It can knock a figure up a few spots when it's really surprising to be that good for the price, or it can actually knock you down a few pegs if you didn't excel the way I thought you would. I have to acknowledge that Masterpiece Wheeljack is a really, really good figure. You know, it's got a little bit of that transformation magic that Masterpiece was known for at the time. You know, he looks pretty good in the robot mode. Articulation's really, really nice. He goes down a couple pegs just because, like, there's still a little bit of oddness to his proportions, which I don't know if there's ever been a Wheeljack that had bang-on proportions. I think all of them end up a little bit weird to some regard. And I really don't think it excels the way other Masterpiece toys tended to do. I can still say, yeah, it's still a fun figure. I still like it a lot. But there are certain things that pull it back a little bit. You know, I'm not a fan of, like, his taillights being on the back of his fists. That seems like kibble that could have gone somewhere else. I don't like that his wings on his back are very thin and breakable. Things like that kind of hold the toy back. That said, still worthy of being on this spot because it was Masterpiece in the 2010s where they put out so many good figures that we have to acknowledge and talk about. Wheeljack is a good one. Maybe not great, but still good. This might be one of the most surprising toys for me to enjoy because, frankly, I didn't think I would like any character out of Age of Extinction's cast because, for some reason, that movie made all of its new Autobots distinctly unlikable to certain degrees. But there was one new character I actually did enjoy the performance of, and the toy is surprisingly good. We need to talk Hound. So Hound itself, like, is already just like a nice solid figure. I mean, I'm not taking anything of that away. And then, like, it's using its soft plastic elements, you know, fairly correctly, you know, to match like the bullets, the bullet belts that go all the way down his arm, and the beard. His beard is also soft. Soft beard. Yes, that's what gets him. That's what gets him on this list. What gets him on this list for real is just accessory loadout. You know, this is back when a high accessory count was just a happenstance, not an excuse to charge an extra $20. No, he came loaded. Giant weapons, pistols, knife, he's got cannons, and he's got spots for all of them to stash on. Look at how many he's got on him. He's loaded, and then they combine. You can combine some of these weapons too to make even bigger weapons. He was just a lot of fun. Like, aside from just being a solid Voyager figure that had a really nice aesthetic to him that was admittedly unique, he actually had a ton going on as far as just playability. It's a lot, and it fits in with his character brilliantly. Yeah, I'm shocked that I liked this figure as much as I did. Maybe I'm the only one, but I think it is a worthy addition to the list. We saw how the bang for your buck scale can bring you down a few notches with Wheeljack. Now it's time to show you where you can raise it up a little bit. We were starting to get interesting Legends class figures where a large, you know, like a smallish figure was packed in with a Target Master style partner. And I think everyone's favorite ended up being Cosmos. Keep in mind, we were still struggling to get good Cosmos toys out in any regard. You know, we got a Legends class, like a tiny little one. Now this was like the modern Legends class, where they were kind of like Scout or basic class size figures, but they came with this little partner character. And Cosmos is great. The space shuttle looks good. He's very like Micromaster aesthetic in robot mode, which I appreciate. And the gun actually turns out good. I also like the combination that they have where he can actually combine to the front of Cosmos's vehicle mode. Speaking of vehicle mode, I actually love the update. I can tell which direction is forward on him, and it looks a little bit fiercer. This is as close as we ever got to that canceled Classics Cosmos that we've only seen artwork of. Like, this one has some of the details and design cues from that one, not all of them. Still has its own thing going on, but it does take nods from that. It's very obvious that it does, and it just looks really, really good. This is a very fun figure. This was a really fun figure, and yeah, just because it's $10 doesn't mean it wasn't great, and yeah, it's a great set to get. Speaking of great sets, Thrilling 30 ended up having some really surprising stuff for us, because they were, for the first time, plucking things from all over in order to drop into a line. You know, we were starting to get homages and even brand new toys based on a lot of prior things, like Minicons. Let's take a look at Curatron. I really, really like this one. So, you've got modern Minicons, right? You've got 3 of them out there. I mean, it's going to be black, yellow, like it's going to be green, black, and yellow color scheme. You're immediately going to catch my attention with that. But all the minicons were larger than they used to be. All of them came with weapon accessories, and all of them featured a little bit more articulation than your standard minicon. So it's kind of like the original concept, but blown up. Even though they could still fit on a standard minicon port if you still had your Armada or Energon toys. And then the fact that all of them had good transformations. They're all military vehicles, so they all match. And then they have a combine mode, which, you know, managed to be like a fairly decent deluxe all by himself. It's a really interesting set. It's a really interesting set. You know, the last time they really gave us a good effort on minicons, and yeah, it shows. This was a fun set. Like, obviously, with, you know, it's a 3-pack that combines. You're going to get a lot of fun and enjoyment out of that. Yeah, they needed... I wish they'd do things like this more often. This was a surprise and a very welcome one. We're getting into that era where if a masterpiece came out, it's most likely going to be on these top 10s. Luckily, we're only counting the first run of every mold, so we don't have to go over and talk each and every single one, and they're not going to overwhelm the list completely. But when a new one comes out, we do have to give it credit. So let's talk about Masterpiece Bumblebee. I still like this Bumblebee better than the modern version. The modern version's just way too kibbly, just way too panely. There's a lot of parts on it that just kind of look ugly. Granted, the proportions on this one do not match cartoon accuracy, but I do think it hits the spirit of Bumblebee a lot better, especially because you have, for the first time in a long time, a licensed Volkswagen Beetle as Bumblebee. Actually, the first time ever, because the original G1 toy wasn't licensed. So this was a triumph, that we actually got a proper Volkswagen Beetle as Bumblebee. And this did it without part forming. This did it without any kind of weird tricks. It was just a dead solid Bumblebee transformer. You throw in a few extra tricks, you know, like the spare tire, like his toy accurate face. You got yourself a pretty solid package in what was at the time one of the smallest masterpieces ever released. And we are to this day still waiting for more mini-bots to actually make it to the masterpiece scale. It's a little bit odd that Bumblebee came out and now we've had a Bumblebee version 2.0 and we haven't had so much as a Cliff Jumper, a Brawn, a Gears, an anything. You know, for whatever reason, Takara holds off on them. But that said, when they do actually make a tiny masterpiece, it seems to come out really, really good. Again, I like this Bumblebee better than I do the more recent one. It's just a nicer, more solid figure. You know, it feels more substantial. And yeah, it feels like Bumblebee, which is kind of what I'm after. Number 3 has a little bit of infamousy to him, which makes him a little bit fun to talk about, but you know what? It still doesn't change the fact that it's just a really solid toy, because it's the first brand new leader class mold we have had in a Generations line, I think at that point, ever. Let's take a look at Jetfire. This one probably drove Harmony Gold nuts. And I don't care. When Harmony Gold is upset, I'm happy. This was a fantastic figure for the time. So you'll notice I'm using the Takara version for this, because this toy is rather infamous because of the red chrome that covered all of his red accessories. Now, this was done because, according to Hasbro, when asked about the chrome, because they hadn't done chrome in forever on anything, it was a Hasbro rep who said, well, because collectors love chrome. Collectors do not like chrome. It chips, it flakes, it cracks, it scratches. No. I can't tell you how many people were stripping the chrome off to find brilliant red plastic underneath that looked just as good and would actually stand the test of time. But regardless of whether you stripped your Jetfire or not, you're left with a really, really nice figure. Jet mode looks fantastic. All the red accessories are removable, so you can have a nice, clean, animation-accurate Skyfire, or you can armor him up and even put the mask on him to have a Jetfire that's more reminiscent of his original G1 toy. It's such a nice blend and balance, you know? It's not going for the cartoon accurate jet mode, it's going straight for, you know, the Valkyrie, which I'm sure upsets some certain people. But you know what? It's a fantastic toy for the time. No wonder they retooled it and remolded it so often. It's just a really dead solid figure. And the first time we got a properly giant Jetfire toy. With, you know, obviously more to come. But, you know, at the time, it absolutely satisfied. I know in the previous figures I didn't give Age of Extinction that much credit. As I said, I felt like the line was kind of hit and miss for good toys. But that said, there is one toy that kind of captured everyone's attention when it came out, especially after they figured out how it worked. Evasion mode Optimus Prime proved that you could get the movie design of Optimus Prime into a G1 accurate flat nose semi-truck, and you can do it pretty effectively. You know, even the feet are folded up and look like a piece of the back of the truck, aside from the toes looking weird, but still so much better than normal. This was a really, really interesting figure because it's one of the rare times I've talked about inside-out engineering in these videos before. I mentioned it during Masterpiece Sideswipe, but this is a toy that exemplifies it. The entirety of the torso is basically the cab section inverted completely, which is how you get such a clean-looking robot who has the, you know, the 07 movie aesthetic, but still turns into this flat-nosed truck instead. Absolutely wonderful toy to play with. Genius level transformation at a time. You didn't really get clever, you know, like super interesting transformation styles out of anything short of a Masterpiece. This pulled it off exceptionally well. It makes for a really, really fun figure. Again, a figure that got reused many, many, many times. I'm only showing you the Takara version because it photographs better. The American version, a little bit lacking. But you know what? These came out the same year, so I'm counting it. It's just a visual example, though. It doesn't matter what version you got. It's a really fun toy to play with some extremely clever engineering. Yeah, very, very easy to see why everyone went nuts over this one. Surprise, surprise, a Masterpiece is taking the #1 slot. And yeah, if you know the releases from 2014, no real shock here. We're going to give the #1 nod to Masterpiece Ultra Magnus. I'm sorry, this just looks magnificent. Not to make a pun there, I apologize. But no, huge, bulky, solid take on Ultra Magnus. Full car carrier that actually fits 4 of the Autobot cars from the Masterpiece line. That's great to see. Everything you could want, and then some. He's got the Matrix of Leadership. He's got alternate faces for different scenes in the movie. He's got extra hands specifically for holding the Matrix. He has a hidden white Optimus Prime face when you switch the faces. He has storage for the faces. And then there is the fact that, yeah, he also comes with Spike and Daniel in tiny little articulated figures to sit in the cab section. Again, there's so much going on with this figure as a Masterpiece release, and then to figure out clever stuff, like the launchers on his shoulders reposition themselves without part forming. The cab section is not a piece you remove, like it just transforms. Again, inside-out engineering going on. It's just, if you are like me, and you like your Ultra Magnus to go straight from car carrier all the way to super robot without the white Optimus and armor up in between, it's an ideal toy. Absolutely ideal. So, for all those reasons, just because I like a dead solid figure, I'm giving the nod to Ultra Magnus. Best toy of 2014. And of course, as always, you are free to disagree with me below, because I know someone's favorite got left out. But that is for you to debate amongst yourselves. Thank you everyone for watching. I will see you next time.